All right, guys, we're going to do this in one take, so I might have to re-say a couple things, but let's get into it. So, SPY closing, technically 2 up and red on the week, but it's a doji, so either side of that gets our attention to become a 2, or else you're inside. If we go to the Qs, that's a 3. So once a 3, always a 3. The question is since that's a 3, we can draw that out on the week as such. Now, how do we get outside of this is the question. You can see they closed about dead center, but they do have a big 3 on the day as well. So whenever we're messing with 3s, what you want to know is if they did it once, they might do it again. And if you stay down and out or up and out of a 3, that's an expansion. So what that means is, for example, on Friday, notice the 3 on the 60. Since they did it once, meaning they sold down and bought up, they might do that again. And you can see they buy up and sell down again. And that's what that means. So if you don't stay up and out of a 3, if you just take out one side and then come back in by going 2 up and red in this case, you're trying to take the other side of that out the second that occurs here. So that's why 3s are important. And that means on the weekly basis, either this is a 3-2 down, continuing the rejection that started here when the week went red at 445.59, or it's a 3-2 up, trying to expand, or you're trying to come back through that stuff. So we're going to be looking for those scenarios. Can you stay down and out or not, or up and out or not? And what we'll see on the month so far is doji month. You have had some range in here. You just don't have a strong participant in here buying or selling. They're just fighting back and forth. So the question is once you get out of this, which side are you going to do? Because we prefer the downside, closer to going 3-2 down. And if you do that, we'd look for this first, and then potentially, if that goes 3-2 down weak, you're back into this 3. So you could start coming back into the low of that. And if you're back into that, you're back into this 3. So you can start coming into that. And at that point, you've reversed the month. So next week, a 3-2 down would be very bad for the tech. And if we go to the Dow here did go inside and down on the week, but failed to get outside the mother bar. So these 2 bars are a 2-bar inside bar pattern to this. So what that means is the high of this and the low of this is your 2-week equilibrium. So we either look to take this out or that out, and then we can start doing the real move. They do have a 3 shooter for Monday, as well as Qs with the outside day. If we go to IWM, that will also be a 3 and a doji week. So the question is these daily 3s, are we going to stay down and out of those and start coming back through these guys, or are we going to try and come back through? So that's what we'll be looking for on the indexes. As far as signals go, and what we're going to see next week, what we do know about is we do see the BTFP program ending with the regional banks, which just removes their free money. So potentially regionals could start having some movement. They do have an inside day from last week, Friday. They did go 3-2 up week, but again, if you start coming back into this 3 here, you might go back to the other side of that, and that'd be an issue outside month. So we'll keep an eye on the regionals, since that's going to have some news or reason to potentially start moving. Could start happening maybe later next month or next quarter, since you do have this 3-month inside bar pattern. If we go to the quarter, you'll have the 3-1. So into next quarter, this will be something we want to know about. And what that means is we can quickly go to the NASDAQ, so the Qs. Since they have the 3 here, what do we see as far as setups into the NASDAQ? And do we have any specific or sector-specific simultaneous breaks? So if I go and show you this, and I'll give you guys this at the end of the stream for those that have asked. I saw some comments. But if we go in here, you'll see specifically in the semiconductors. So on Friday, they gap up and sold most of those. And what that told us on the gap up Friday, if we look at, you'll see IWM's gapping up. We saw SPY, the very slight gap higher from yesterday's close. What that tells us to go for initially is going to be things taking out yesterday's lows. So those names were cost. You can see the whole market gaps up, this gaps down. So guess what? Anyone that was buying this stuff, they get what they wanted. Market's gapping up. But guess what? Their stock is in. So they have to get out here. And you can see, boom, they drop at 25 points from the open, 60 points from yesterday's close. And then with the semiconductors, Marvel was the one taking yesterday's lows out. So that was a big problem there with Marvel. And those were a few of the gap names that you could see we had up pre-market here, because that's where you want to be on the gap up, things gapping down. And what that then does is you can see for Marvel, that's now a shooter week. So what happens if this works and the shooter week goes to its magnitude? Well, now you're a potential RevStrap month pivot machine gun through these guys. So what we know is, if we go and take a look, a lot of things are setting up either 2 up in red or shooters on the week. So we can go through those in the semiconductors. You'll see Intel killed on Friday, slight gap higher, and then 2 go 3. Creates a shooter counter hammer week. Still 3 months inside of that, so that was not the best. Go to AVGO. Now this is where it gets more interesting. So you can see RevStrat Day sets up the 2-2 week back into this 3. So you'd start coming back through and into this range here. So below last week's lows, 130158. We look for 120264. 2 going 3 on the month gives us 117911 if this stuff works out. If we go to ADI, you'll see that one's not quite as weak. If we go to QCOM, we'll see that one's not quite as weak. If you were long, you could stay long until last week. So maybe the inside days can start sending that the other way. But here's TXN. There's your slight higher highs to this. And if you were following the weekend videos, this was one we talked about with the RevStrat week here to go and make the slight higher highs to that. So it did that. Now it's a shooter week. So going into next week, 2-2 here, you could go all the way back through this tride to go and take these guys out because these 2 months went outside of that. So that could be one here. You can go NVIDIA. This is where we see potentially these buyers this year can have some issues. So below 83,417, you have a 3122 RevStrat shooter week. And the reason that's important is you have an equilibrium. So consolidation, buyers and sellers agree on prices. A shooter week here would counter that equilibrium break. So everyone that bought into this thinking, yeah, this is going up, now they're going to have to get out. And 662.48 would get you a lot closer to going outside month to take this out. So this will be important to know about. And that tells us we should look at SMCI as well. So a little stronger. You'll see failed to go 3 on the day. So that one's going to be strongest as far as we know there. But below this, it is still a RevStrat, 9761. So below that, your magnitude 692.5, and that gets you a lot closer to going outside month. So next week, if this starts happening, we have a lot of range in these chips. So we'll want to keep an eye on that. We can keep going through the list. We'll have NXPI. Also 2 up in red, potentially back towards this previous 3. So we'll see. We'll go KLAC, 2 up in red week, potential 2-2 pivot machine gun. If we go to AMAT, 2 up in red week, also would be considered PMG. We're still not negating that month yet. Go to LRCX, 2 up in red week, still has not negated the month yet either. So if we get 2-2 weeks across all of these, if I go on next week and these are all 2 downs on the week, we're going to prefer shorts in these. So that'll be a change of what we've seen so far this year, since most of these have been going up since the beginning of the year. So we'll see if that happens. And then if we go down in here as well, we will see, if we scroll down, a lot of lackluster stuff compared to the rest. So a little bit in the consumer discretionary, you have a slight, you can see hammers here. So Lulu has a little hammer. It's an inside month still, but it could RevStrat that. So potentially go BKNG, slight hammer, could go back into that 3, but no continuity on the month. If we go to MAR, little RevStrat there. So we can look at those on the upside. And the only other ones I really see there is WBA. Potentially this could pivot machine gun if this goes hammer weaken force above this. 2138. It will still be one of the weaker stocks taking last month's lows. So you got to stay above 2138 if that's going to be a buy. So we can look for that, and potentially you can get these guys back through this stuff. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. And that covers most of what we want to be looking at. We really want to keep an eye on those chips since it's such a simultaneous break potentially setting up. There is a good chunk of 3s from last week that we can take a look at as well. So Microsoft, 3 on the week. Adobe, 3 on the week. Costco, this is a great from the Gapper list, 3 on the week. So a 3-2 pivot machine gun is still happening, 2 going 3 months. So this is one we'll definitely keep an eye on, since we had the short here. If you're watching the stream Friday morning, that was the first thing you were supposed to go and do along with Marvel. And we do see things like ODFL. You can see goes into new highs and then 2 up in red on the month. So potentially 3-2 on the week if those want to keep going. And with 3-2s or playing with 3s, you just got to know you have to stay out of that stuff. So we'll keep an eye on these, but we can let them go and break that first. And if they start going red, we can look for lower time frame stuff to get in there. If we go to Looks like the rest of these threes have some mother bar issues. So all the tech, you can see a lot of 1-3s stuck inside of previous mother bars, which will be SNPS, ANSS, into crowd with a big old 3 on the week, and FTNT with a big old 3 on the week. So not much that we have there that is actionable, but you can play threes since you can either trade back through or look to expand those. So we'll keep an eye on those. And what we can then also do is go and take a look here in the Dow. So the Dow was one of the weaker ones, taking last week's lows last week. It could rev strat next week if things are good, but you're nowhere near doing that on the day. So if we go in there, we've got a few little shooters. So TRV, little shooter, 2-week inside bar pattern, which is financials. CRM with the inside week here. So either side of that gets our attention. You can see mother bar problems on the day here. So you don't want to get chopped up. Notice the very small try, how that starts over when you go inside the higher time frame. We do have Home Depot, which will be another good one, closer to inside week and down. On the year, it's still inside and up, but this would directly counter that. So we could potentially try and stop some of these guys out. Amazon, 2 up in red week, potential 2-2 back down below this, 173.26, back into the 3, gives you magnitude to take that out. And if you do that, a lot closer to going outside month. So we'll definitely want to know about 2s and 2s going 3 on the month. We'll also see Disney, also could go 2-2s back down on the week. If things are bad, you would have a 2-2 day to get that going. And as far as 2 down in greens go, you can see KO, very slight 2 down in green, not much to really go with there. Tells you can look at PEP potentially. PEP, a little bit weaker, 113 on the day with the 312 month. So that would be a rev strat down below this, and that'd be a big issue for PEP. McDonald's, another one. You can see slight 2 down in green. If that starts going anywhere, we could take the month up, so we can still keep an eye on that, but there's just very few bullish setups. And then the last one here, 1-3, 1 bar rev strat, go 2 bar rev strat on the week for Goldman Sachs. And then 1-3 shooter day, 1 bar rev strat, go 2 bar rev strat on the day to get that moving. So bearish setups there as far as we are aware. And if we just go to financials, a little bit of an inside day for Monday there. What we do still see is the energies. XLE will have the inside day closing pretty bullish and the inside month. So if that month is going to start to get moving, this inside day will do that for you above 88.19. So if that works and doesn't reverse, that's something we want to know about to keep it moving. It tells us we can look at OIH, which is going to be stronger since it went 2 up day. And you'll see the little bit of a triangle layout in here. If we clear this stuff out, you can see slight lower lows to this stuff after a slight high rise here. So we'll see going into next week. Can that go and keep going to the upside? If we go to XOP, a little bit weaker, 2 up and then close back in the range. Does have the Momo Hammer week and still has that month and up. So we'll keep looking at those energies to see if those are going to keep picking up. In the materials, we did get a 2-2 in the XLBs. There's still a 3-2 month and up, so they could be triangle out, but we'll have to see that set up. And if we go to gold, rev strap month and up, bright green. So that's got all month that we'll want to know about, and that takes the year up. And this is something I posted on Twitter. Did not have in last weekend's video, so I apologize. But the 1-3-1-2 on the year, and what that is contraction, expansion, showing aggressive buying and selling, and then contraction again, and then here's the 2. So this is the real move above 193.18. So we'll continue to look for gold, and silver could also start getting that year moving as well. We'd like to see a slight triangle out so we can get some stuff in there. But if you watched last weekend's video, you knew about the 3-2 here, right at the open, along with the simultaneous break 3-2 with GDX. Here, 3-2, and then boom. So we'd like to see some corrective activity. And then we also did see the month get broken up, so we can look to try and take these guys out up here. If we go to JNUG, simultaneous break, notice 3-2 and boom, right into the slight high of that, and then they paused. So we'd like to see slight triangle out, and then can we keep it going to 37.51. So we'll keep looking to long materials. We'll see if the tech and the chips want to start coming back in at all. And outside of that, I don't have anything that I really want to give you guys. But the only thing I would like to give you here is UUP. So the Dixie, we did have a gap down slight buy going into the end of the week with the non-farm, but we do see a potential rev strap month. And if we go to Dixie instead of UUP, that one's already taken the month down. So we'd like to see, do those triangle out, and then does the dollar keep puking? And that's more for the Forex guys if you're going to be looking at that stuff. But what we do know is all those inside ears across all the currencies here, those could start breaking. So if the dollar is going to really puke inside and down, gets you back into this guy here. So that'd be a big issue because the dollar would be going back towards pretty much like where COVID lows were. And that hints at, if that happens, we potentially have a worse financial crisis than COVID if we're taking these guys out. So we'll definitely want to know about that. As far as the longer term thesis on UUP, if this breaks, you could come all the way back to the all-time lows here at 21 and maybe even lower. So we'll want to know about that. And what I would do is just use some of the UUP puts as a hedge of dollar weakness. And as far as inflation and stuff goes, in real life, good time to be using your dollars to get things that are necessary and things that aren't going to be perishables and whatnot. But I don't want to get too much into that here. If you guys want to hear my thoughts on that, then let me know. But besides that, that's what we're going to be looking at into next week. If we do go and take a look at the S&P 100, we're going to see more of the same. So if we sort by sector here, you'll see on the weekly list, we do have some conflicting setups here in the consumer discretionary. If we scroll all the way down in the technologies, you got a lot of 2 up in red, so concentration for the simultaneous break. And then in communications, you also have a few of those as well. So it looks like Netflix could also be a 2 up in red in the big 7 with Amazon. And it looks like T-Mobile could also be this rev strat weekend down. So a few extra ones there, but outside of that, that is all we're going to be looking at going into next week. And I'll see you guys going into Monday night with what we're looking into Turnaround Tuesday. So hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll see you guys then.